What's up, everyone? Welcome to RotoGrinders Crunch Time. I am your host, TJ Zwarch, talking some NBA tonight. And joining me is the Chief, Will Priester. How you doing tonight, Will?
Doing good, man. Talking a little NBA while NFL is happening. Obviously, my Panthers are playing currently right now. 17-14. How about that? Bryce Young decides to run for one. Good job, Bryce. Thank you. But yeah, nonetheless, man, glad to come on. Actually, our basketball program as a whole, boys and girls basketball, was at a college game earlier today, and that was fun. It was good for the kids to get out, let their hair down, and not be a part of the action, but watch a little bit of action. And so, everybody had a really good time. So, once again, glad to come on with you, TJ, and talk a little NBA. Don't worry, I was at the game, watching the game and working a little bit, getting prepared for this slate. So let's have some fun and talk through some NBA.
This has been a tilting start to the football game because I went heavy on Rams onslaughts as well as game stacks in this one. And I don't know if how much of the football game you've been able to catch because I know you've had a busy day, but I got Devontae Adams on all my teams, and Stafford just missed them wide open on a 50-yard bomb. One of Higbee's catches, it was a great catch and for like 20 yards. But if Stafford just leads them a little bit less, there's a chance that it's a 50-yard touchdown because nobody was behind him. And then they've had some just like bad penalties. They went for it on 4th and 2. Stafford could have ran for it. He didn't quite get it. Touchdown pass to Puka Nacua. Just kidding. It was a backwards pass, and it's now a rushing touchdown for Puka Nacua. And I'm just like, oh, so many of these things, truly a game of inches. But 17-14, an exciting football game so far. We are here, of course, though, to talk a little bit of basketball. We do have a small slate, 5 games on both DraftKings and FanDuel tonight. And we still are waiting on really important news. And so it's kind of hard to know what to do just yet. As of now, I'm playing as if the big 3 guys who are projected as questionable in this Detroit and Clippers game, I've built as though they're going to be playing. And so if all of them get ruled in, I don't have to adjust anything. But I'm expecting at least one of these guys to get ruled out. And so if that is the case, I'll have to do some readjusting. I'm, of course, talking about for the Clippers, Kawhi Leonard, and then for Detroit, Cade Cunningham, Isaiah Stewart, both listed as questionable. Stewart on the surface feels like less of a big deal, but when you realize that, Jalen Duren is still out as well.
He's out also, yeah.
That makes them pretty small up front outside of Paul Reed. And so he's probably he'd have to play as many minutes as he could handle. Maybe we see Asar Thompson and Ron Holland pick up a few extra minutes, but they are a very guard-heavy team when it comes to their bench spots. And so if Stewart gets ruled out, that is going to adjust a lot of things from a minute standpoint. Let's start going through things position by position. We'll, of course, cover DraftKings first. We'll go to FanDuel second. Then we will, of course, take questions from the RotoGrinders live stream Discord chat first, YouTube chat second. YouTube, all we ask is that you smash that like button for us. It's free content on a Saturday. We could be watching football, but nah, we're here helping you win some money. So all we ask is that you hit that like button for us. What's your overview on today's slate before we go position by position? Any teams in particular you're hoping to target? Lots of, obviously, Dallas, heavily undermanned today. Who are you looking to target? How many lineups you playing? Which sites you playing? What you doing tonight?
Just one lineup, and what I was going to say is I feel like from a general standpoint, the slate is how much Dallas is too much Dallas. I feel like that's how the field is going to play it. Once again, I don't think that's the wrong way to play it because, TJ, these guys are too cheap on DraftKings. So I think being able to get exposure to those guys in the right spots and then being able to filter in. Once again, TJ, it is a really small slate, though, right? So it's not like we have a plethora of options. Dallas is carrying the value, and then it's how much do you want to play everybody else? I think that's this slate. We've seen Utah have some big games, just Utah basketball games. I'm not saying Utah the team. I mean the Utah games themselves, no matter who the opponent is. It's been a track meet this season. So, looking at those games and looking at, how you might want to approach those, that's another linchpin of this slate, I believe, TJ. So and Utah has a few value pieces of their own. So Dallas and the Utah game, how can that carry us to tournament winnings tonight? Is it enough? It really could be.
It is such an interesting slate when you look at it. Obviously, we like Dallas because of how many guys they have out, but they're also playing Chicago, one of the fastest paced, worst defensive teams in the league. And then in Charlotte and Utah, we have two of the worst defensive teams in the league. In Miami and Indy, Indy is not very strong defensively, and Miami plays at one of the fastest paces in the league. So we have three of these games that are just these incredible game environments, especially if everybody's healthy in the Clippers-Detroit game. I would love to just be able to not fully ignore those two games, Clippers-Detroit and San Antonio-Boston, but max one from each of those teams and then just have different variations of game stacks in these other three, because these other three are just so much juicier.
And let's talk about that, TJ, briefly. I know we're going position by position, but I mean, it's a short slate. Guys, I think you'll get a buffet of analysis tonight, if you will. In the Detroit game, though, even though we're going position by position, we'll get there later. I don't want to overlook the Paul Reed situation, because if Isaiah Stewart is out, like, Paul Reed is borderline must play. Like, I want people to understand that. He's going to get as much as he can handle. So I think that's something that's really important. That will give you another, virtually valuable piece that you can plug in. And, hopefully he plays big minutes, which we think he should, and is productive. Don't give us bad Paul Reed. Give us good Paul Reed, productive Paul Reed. And I think we'll see some nice scores.
Let's start off with DraftKings point guard, where we have Cooper Flag, point guard, small forward eligibility, which is really nice because you can basically play him anywhere at that guard or forward spot at the edge of your lineup. Or I prefer, if I am picking between the point guard and small forward spot, I would rather play him at small forward, just because I think point guard's a much stronger position. But Flag is one of those guys that's pretty much a must play. In cash, you are absolutely getting him. In tournaments, I'm choosing to get overweights. I have about 80% Cooper Flag. I was debating hitting the lock button, but I decided to do it just short and go 80% Flag. And so he's my number one. Keontae George is my number two. And then one guy that I am prioritizing as well, like currently in cash, this is from a projection standpoint, not the right play. But because of Flag's eligibility at different positions, I'm able to choose between Ryan Nembhard and Klay Thompson as like a last piece in my cash game. Projections say Klay Thompson is the guy. I'm personally going Ryan Nembhard. I'm going against projections on that one just because outside of Flag, he's like, Nembhard is the only other point guard on that team, and he's very cheap, and I know he's been playing bad lately, and maybe I should be just doing this in tournaments more than cash, because the correct cash play is Klay Thompson instead of Ryan Nembhard, but I'm personally going Nembhard just because I don't really trust Thompson tonight, and I think Nembhard could have a bit better of a game with no Brandon Williams in there. Chief, who do you like at point guard today? I have a tiny pool. Cunningham, Harden, George, Flag, Ball, Nembhard. That's my entire pool at point guard.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. I saw somebody mentioning that Kawhi was definitely going to sit. We don't have any confirmation for sure. I will say, if he's out, though, I like James Harden. Excuse me, TJ. I'm so sorry for that yawn, everybody. Please forgive me. I have had a long day, I promise. James Harden will absolutely be my pool. If Cade plays, he will be in the pool. But I'm with you. Ryan Nembhard, 3,700 value du jour. And we don't have a whole lot of ownership on him either, TJ. Like, that's something that's very intriguing for me. I think he's a great play tonight. Yeah, so I'm all aboard that train. I think I'm fine with Keontae George. I think I'm fine with Tyler Hero. Minutes will be there if the game's tight, so I'm fine with him. But I think my guy that's on the outside looking in that most people may not play is James Harden, who's had some okay games when Kawhi is out. I think I definitely have him loaded up.
Yeah, if Kawhi's out, I agree. James Harden bumps up the list. He's kind of like the last guy on my list right now, but if we happen to get Kawhi out, Harden definitely skyrockets up that group. Still would be behind Flag for me, but basically on that same tier too with Keontae George. Keontae George and Harden would kind of be 2A, 2B for me in that spot.
Definitely not arguing about Flag tonight. So I realized I didn't submit that. So I'm very sorry, folks. Cooper Flag, fantastic play, 7,800. Dallas is down quite a bit of players. Matchup with Chicago. So I like Cooper Flag quite a bit. If you decide that you're playing a whole bunch of lineups and you go Cooper Flag lock button, I'm not going to argue with you. You just have to hope that he does have a meltdown today, but I definitely won't argue with that.
Cade Cunningham, if he plays, definitely viable. If he's out, we probably see Jaden Ivey pop into the starting lineup. I prefer Dennis Jenkins. If Jenkins starts, I think he's great. If Jenkins, even if he's off the bench, that's still my preferred choice of the Detroit guards. Just a much better point per minute producer. He went 1 for 8 from the field in his last game coming off of the bench and still put up 33.5 DK points because he had 15 assists. He's just a very, very active player. And so Dennis Jenkins is definitely my first choice of the Detroit guards if Cade Cunningham happens to be out. Shooting guard position. Will, who do you like?
Well, TJ, on short slates, man, there's no surprise. Shooting guards is typically one of the spots that I feel like are one of the weaker positions on the slate, but not as weak as it could be, TJ. I think it's actually fairly good tonight. Sometimes shooting guards just bad. I don't want to say bad, weaker in general. But TJ, tonight we get Derek White, we get Castle, we get Norman Powell, we get Tyler Hero, we get Con Knipple against Utah. We get Najee Marshall with those guys down. I'm bringing it up in that fashion, TJ, because we get guys. Now, are all of these guys priced appropriately? Or some of them not as good a plays as others? Of course, but we have options, TJ. Obviously, I know people are going to want to gravitate towards Najee. I think it's the right play. I think our play
Cunningham is out. Isaiah Stewart is out.
Oh boy, hold on.
Time to start a rebuild. All right.
Hold the phones, people. So those guys are out. Why is Kawhi Leonard going to play in this game, TJ? Those are my first thoughts. Seriously.
That definitely makes me think, I wanted to be able to make this 5-game slate a 3-game slate, and now it's definitely 4. I'm looking at San Antonio and Boston and saying, I'm going to keep Victor Wembanyama in my pool just because even in 25 minutes, he can put up a ceiling. And on Boston, I'll keep Jaylen Brown. But other than that, this is a 4-game slate. Kawhi Leonard will play. Kevin Huerter listed available to play. So Kawhi is still in. That makes me feel comfortable enough to set a limit to maximum one Clipper player. And I'll look at that and say, Leonard, Harden, Zubac, sure, maybe you 3 can stay in my pool, but I'll not get very much of any of you, 5 to 10% of all 3 of those guys, max 1 per lineup. I'm very interested to see how our projections look when we get the update for Detroit, because I know Paul Reed is basically a must play. He already was a must play in cash. Now he's a borderline lock button play. I know I'm going to like Dennis Jenkins, but I'm interested to see if any of these ancillary pieces pop. How does Otsar Thompson look? How does Ronald Holland look? Do we have any other big men who pop into the projection that are maybe up from the G League that I don't know about? Either way, very interesting to see that projection update come out. When it does, we will, of course, update you when it does and let you know our thoughts. Shooting guard is really just a spot that I'm loading up on Dallas players. Like I have, obviously I'm going to adjust with this Detroit news, but I have 57% Najee Marshall, 53% Max Christie. So I'm just loading up on those Dallas guys here, getting to a little bit of Con Knipple, Ayo Dosunmu, Tyler Hero. Sure, you could punt with a Clayton or a Shvee for Utah. And Simons, I think, is an okay cheap option too. But I just really don't like the position. And so I am going to be eating the chalk a fair amount here with Najee Marshall and Max Christie. Small forward. Who do you like?
Man, TJ, I am
Cooper Flag, Najee Marshall, a lot of the same guys we already talked about.
Well, I might sprinkle in some Klay Thompson here. He's 4K. Projections look good on him. I actually think Klay might be okay tonight. Like it feels like Brandon Miller should be really good against Utah, so I don't hate that.
Sam Hauser just got ruled out for Boston, and we were projecting him to start for 25 minutes. And so I do kind of wonder at the potentially weak position for shooting guard and small forward, if that might open up guys like Jordan Walsh or a Hugo Gonzalez for us now.
I mean, it could. I'll come back to that.
That's minor. We already talked about that.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what happens with Asar Thompson's projection. Like, I feel like we need to give him. I feel like projections are going to give him 3 to 4 more minutes. Like, I feel like he'll be somewhere near 30, and I think that's going to change his projection enough at 5,800. I think he's a pretty solid play. Ron Holland, are they going to give him 5 to 6 more minutes? How's that going to impact him?
I think Holland's got to project for 30 plus minutes now because they just
that's what I'm thinking. So that's what I'm saying. Like, some of these guys are going to play this Karis LeVert pick up extra minutes here, and once again, he's not a guy that's been part of their big plan, but right now he's projected at 18. Does he get 25? Like that? These are some of the things I'm thinking. I feel like Detroit starting to pick up some steam here. So yeah, I like these Detroit small forward guys. I would be mixing and matching them as projections are updated, even outside of the projections, TJ, because we don't know, quite frankly, which one of these guys it's going to be. So if you're mass multi-enter, I think you just bump up the projections enough for them to be reasonable, not overinflated, TJ. But let's say you bump up Holland enough to maybe pick up 25 fantasy points. Same thing for Karis LeVert, Asar Thompson. Maybe you bump up his minutes enough to give him a 32 fantasy point projection, which isn't like way off the reservation, but enough to give them more in your player pool when you're building your lineups. I think these small forwards from Detroit are going to be actually big parts of winning lineups tonight.
Yeah.
Also, you can play Cooper Flag and Brandon Miller.
Yeah. Obviously, yeah. We talked Flag, Marshall. I got like 80 and 60% of each, 30% Klay Thompson, 30% Brandon Miller. All of those numbers outside of Flag probably bump down now a little bit because I will get some Asar Thompson like we talked about. And then Ron Holland, I do think is going to end up projecting really well here. No update yet, but I do think that he's going to be somebody that looks good. And that's going to lead to me getting a lot less of some guys that I was considering punting with, like a Johnny Furphy or a Cody Williams.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's necessary now. I don't think those are guys that I need to mess around with. Aaron Nesmith projecting for a ton of ownership. I get he's been playing good lately. I just don't buy that long term. And so Nesmith is a guy that I'm looking to get underweight to the field on. And so the Dallas guys, the Charlotte ones, and then these Detroit guys I'll be mixing in a little as well. Flag and Marshall, obviously my top two. I'm going to be underweight on Klay. I'm playing Klay, but I will be underweight. Power forward is most likely where I'm looking to play Klay Thompson if I am getting to him today, just because it is that is not a strong position. Like point guard and center are the only spots that I want to fill up today. There are guys that I like Miles Bridges, Pascal Siakam, Buzelis is fine. It's not that the players that I'm getting to are bad. It's just that the pool is so small. Like right now, I'll add Holland into it, but right now, Wiggins, Huff, Thompson, Buzelis, Siakam, Bridges. That's my entire pool of power forwards. 6 guys.
Yeah, I can't argue with you. It's not much here. I don't want to play Andrew Wiggins, obviously. I don't want to play Keldon Johnson. If Kawhi was out, I might have strongly considered John Collins just to, have some differentiators, but maybe Javonte Green, TJ, maybe he's a guy that you like, but generally speaking, I'm with you. I don't like power forward. And there's just not enough minutes available at power forward either. Like, you kind of relegated to overspending for a Pascal Siakam who could get there, could not. But, I think the cheap guys are the way to go. You mentioned Miles Bridges. I get it. It's a matchup against Utah. I think we need to be considering a lot more Charlotte guys, TJ, just in general because of the Utah situation. But overall, I don't think this just isn't the top position tonight.
Agreed, 100%. Let's pivot to the center spot where Paul Reed is going to look really, really good now with no Isaiah Stewart. He's going to skyrocket to the top of this list in terms of optimal rate once it updates. Reed is the number 1 choice. Gafford is the number 2. You play both of them in cash, done deal. No problem whatsoever. If it ends up being a situation where you want to play 3 point guards and so you just feel like you got to skip one of those, you skip Gafford. Paul Reed is definitely the one you need now. Gafford's the one you skip. I think you probably play both in cash, but that's kind of how it's shaking out. I think if you're only getting to one, it's got to be Reed. Kevin Love, totally fine pivot off of Gafford in this spot. I do think him and Gafford both kind of have limited ceilings just because of their lack of minutes. And so Huff, I think, is an interesting pivot off of both of them. Won't play a ton of minutes either, but they're kind of all very similar plays tonight, the 3 of them. I think spending up is super interesting for tournaments, though. Nikola Vucevic, Bam Adebayo, even Victor Wembanyama, or down to Ivica Zubac. Everybody's going to be playing the cheapies today. I think spending up at center is a great way to get contrarian in tournaments.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Here's my question, TJ. At some point, you have to get off all the value, right? Like, you just can't play a whole bunch of 5K and 4K guys. You got to spend the money somewhere, I think, to take some, let's call it raw points, if you will, TJ. Like, raw points still matter. So I don't mind Vucevic. I don't. I think he's fine. And I think it goes back to something you mentioned earlier about a Victor Wembanyama who may not play a lot of minutes, but has raw point upside. This is still a guy that can go out and get you 48 to 50. And TJ, if he does that, that's probably enough on this slate when we're expecting the value to do some damage tonight. So I'm with you at center. I totally agree with your take on cash. Plug in Reed, plug in Gafford. How many minutes does Kevin Love get? I think I saw somebody mention Kevin Love. How many does he get? Because he is going to play some minutes. Kevin Love has historically just been really productive in limited minutes, TJ, even when he plays. So I don't mind that call at all.
So Asar Thompson looks decent, projecting for 30 minutes now. Ron Holland looks fine, projecting for 25 minutes. I will say what hampers these Detroit guys a little bit is they did have a ton of players that they're just kind of throwing in there for, like, we just threw into the projections for like 2 to 7 minutes. And so I guess they did have a lot of other bodies available that they could potentially go to small pieces to soak up those minutes. So they have an Isaac Jones, Tolu Smith, Bobby Klintman, Chaz Lanier. Tolu Smith was the only one of those I had heard of before today. And so if you're playing 150 lineups, hey, maybe you can even get Tolu into a lineup today. Just then you say, obviously, you're not playing him with Reed, but Paul Reed is the smash. Dennis Jenkins looks very good. Nobody else is projecting as like must plays of that group today, at least from a DraftKings perspective. FanDuel, we will pivot to right now. Start me off at FanDuel point guard, Will. Who you liking?
So on FanDuel point guard, I'm liking Nembhard quite a bit. I know he's technically more expensive, right, TJ? But here's the thing on FanDuel. You have to play two of them, right? It's a little different. Now, there are some multi-eligibility pieces, don't get me wrong, but I think Nembhard's a favorite because Cooper Flagg is a lot more expensive, but Cooper Flagg also has triple position eligibility on FanDuel, TJ. So you can get him at point guard, shooting guard, or small forward. So Nembhard definitely a guy that I am interested in, because I also think, TJ, you're going to get you've got cheaper guys like Ivy, you've got cheaper guys like Dennis Jenkins, who's 5,400. So, like, there's some other guys you can really get cheap at point guard. And I think that's the way I'm going to end up tonight. I think I'm just going to go double cheap at point guard, because I can get Cooper Flagg pretty much in any of the other relative spots that I want. I'm still fine with Jaden Ivey, because I think the minutes will be there, like enough minutes for him to be productive. So I don't want to, scratch him out. I wish I knew that Colin Sexton was going to play like 30 minutes, or I wish he was playing 30 minutes. Let me say that. That would have been fantastic, but he's just not. So I'm going cheap at point guard, TJ, and then I'll plug in expensive guys like Keontae or Flagg at shooting guard or small forward.
Agreed with you there 100%. I think of the cheapies, my favorite is probably Ryan Nembhard. I don't mind Andrew Nembhard either as a tournament play, but I'd rather go cheapy with Ryan. Cooper Flagg must play, but I'd rather get him at shooting guard or small forward. Keontae George, one of my favorites. Dennis Jenkins, I think, is still very playable on FanDuel. He will be much lower owned than he is on DK, making him a great tournament play. Not a projection smash, because he is more expensive over here. And I do think, although I'd rather play him at shooting guard, Jaden Ivey is a guy you can play. I'm not super high on him on FanDuel because Jenkins is cheaper. On DraftKings because Jenkins is cheaper. But on FanDuel, where Ivey's 4,300, I do think he is viable over here. Shooting guard, Will. A lot of the same names with Flagg. Talked about Ivey, talked about Keontae George. But we got Klay Thompson has shooting guard eligibility over here. He is very cheap. He is very chalky. Start there and then talk to me about shooting guard.
Yeah, I don't mind a chalky Klay Thompson on FanDuel where he's 4K. I think he's viable. The thing is, I'm probably going to end up playing him at small forward, though. That's where I think he will end up, because I have to play Keontae at one of these spots, TJ, and I'm just going to play him at shooting guard. So that's the way I'm going to play that there. I still have some flexibility with Cooper Flagg. I think I'm going to end up with Flagg and George at shooting guard, TJ, to open it up for me on the backside. I think that's how I'm going to play it on FanDuel. But all in all, those are my two main guys at the shooting guard position, because I can also get Asar Thompson at small forward if I want to. I can get Max Christie at small forward if I want to. So, where I have options, I'm just going to keep the options open. I think Brandon Miller is another I can get at small forward. So wherever I can get some of these other guys at small forward, TJ, that's what I'm doing tonight.
That is my first choice as well. Thompson's, again, like, that's a great cash game play, but somebody I probably want to be underweight to in tournaments. Sensabaugh is much cheaper on FanDuel, so he's fine here as well. But probably looking to get those guys at small forward instead. Not really anybody else we haven't already talked about. I'll just kind of hammer home that I do quite like the Brandon Miller play today as well. Also, Dennis Jenkins does have shooting guard eligibility on FanDuel, so you can get to him as a tournament play over here. Small forward, Najee and Klay are the two guys you're for sure playing in cash. Sensabaugh as well as Cooper Flagg. Those are the three Dallas players that are like for sure's, and then you're choosing between maybe a Nembhard or somebody else. But those are the three Dallas players you're for sure getting to in cash. Sensabaugh maybe, but not like an absolute must, because there's guys like Miles Bridges and Brandon Miller as well. Who do you like at small forward?
Man, I think it's a lot of the same names for me, TJ. Obviously, you throw in Najee, you throw in Klay, throw in Sensabaugh, throw in Holland. Holland, if I get to Holland, I'll probably play him at power forward for what it's worth. If you get to Christie, I think you're okay. at some point you got to spend some money. So Asar Thompson is a guy I'm considering. Miles Bridges definitely a guy I'm considering to match up against Utah. Brandon Miller definitely a guy I'm considering. TJ to match up against Utah. Those are guys that I think could be really, really, really good players for us.
Don't disagree one bit. Power forward position. Marshall is playable here. Kevin Love has power forward eligibility on FanDuel, and he's only 4,300. So I like him as a FanDuel play significantly more than on DraftKings. You're probably getting to one of him or Filipowski in this spot, since Filipowski is also a lot cheaper, but it's not a must. They're not must plays. They're both good plays, but not must plays. Ron Holland fits in a similar boat as them now. Aaron Neesmith, I don't understand how he's chalk at that price. Get me out of there. I don't want to do it. Buzelis a bit too expensive on FanDuel for my taste. I would rather go with one of the cheapies up the top. Marshall, Love, Filipowski, Holland, or spend up to a guy like Bam Adebayo as a kind of a sneakier option. How about you?
Yeah, I don't hate that. Like I said, TJ, I think, with this slate being so pitiful at 5 games, and I'm using pitiful for dramatic effect, by the way. I don't think it's so bad.
It's weirdly great for it only being 5 games.
Yeah. I just mean the limited options, not necessarily that we can't do anything. You got to spend some money somewhere, and so Wemby, I'm borderline all in on Wemby at power forward on FanDuel. I just think some money's got to be spent. You got to start taking some raw points, and so that's the approach I'm taking. I think, could Kawhi outscore Wemby tonight? Oh, he might actually. He may, but I feel like Kawhi and Wemby are in the same boat, TJ, to be honest. Like, is Kawhi going to now play 35 minutes with Detroit shorthanded? I don't think so. So I'm going with the guy that I feel like has the most upside. That's Victor Wembanyama. I'm playing him at the top. I understand that Bam and Pascal are kind of steady pieces. I think Miles Bridges, once again, against Utah is another way to get some really good exposure in that game. Miles Bridges obviously has a really nice minutes projection. Can that show up against the Utah Jazz and him get it done? I sure hope so, because he's a guy that I like quite a bit. That's kind of where I'm at power forward. I'm not really going to overextend to Andrew Wiggins tonight, or Ware from Miami. I want guys in, and obviously Ware Miami could get there, but Miles Bridges, I think, is going to play more minutes for sure. So I'm sticking with those types of guys.
Get your questions in if you have them. Get them into the RotoGrinders live
Discord. Get your questions.
Get them into the YouTube chat. They can be about football. They can be about basketball. They can be about dinner. They can be about whatever you want. We got lots of time with this only being a 5-game slate. Since we aren't waiting on any news, if we run out of questions, we might get out of here a little bit early, since there's not any breaking news that we're going to be waiting on at this point. Obviously, things can pop up because it's NBA, but nothing we are really holding out for at this point anymore, because we got that Clippers and Detroit stuff already. I just got with all the adjustments with the Detroit news and the little bit of Boston news, I just got my new set of lineup builds in. I ended up with 81% Cooper Flagg and 77% Paul Reed. So loading up on both of those guys in my 150 lineup set build tonight. And I know I had brought up earlier at the center position on DraftKings, just wanted to revisit this, that you're probably going Reed and Gafford in DraftKings cash. I actually think I would prefer just straight up Dennis Jenkins over Daniel Gafford now. And so I would be going with the 3-point guard approach as opposed to the 2-center one, I think. But I haven't rebuilt my cash lineup yet. I've only rebuilt my 150 core. So I'll get back to you on that when I know for sure. Center position, Will, who do you like on FanDuel?
Paul Reed. That's what I'm playing tonight. Obviously, you can get the Daniel Gafford at 5,300, but TJ, they're much closer in price, and I absolutely trust the fact that Paul Reed's going to play more minutes than Daniel Gafford tonight. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm going to let the chips fall where they may. I'm playing expensive guys in other spots. I'm absolutely playing Paul Reed at center on FanDuel.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's really tough to pivot off of him when they're like he's just such a strong point per dollar option. If he gets in foul trouble or hurt, that's kind of the only way he doesn't get there with how many bodies they're down today. So Reed is without a doubt the cash choice. He's the best tournament play as well. He's projecting for 25% ownership right now. I still think that's probably from the pre-Isaiah Stewart news. He's going to be 70+% owned today in single entry, probably 50% plus owned in large field stuff. If I'm pivoting, I think I would want to do it with a spend up, maybe a Nikola Vucevic. I just don't think that there's anybody in his range that beats him unless he just straight up fails due to injury, foul trouble, something like that. So if I am getting off of him on FanDuel, I think I would like it to be with a spend up. Will, Slate breaking plays tonight. Who do you got? Give me an expensive guy and a cheapie. Who do you got tonight to break the slate?
What are we going to consider expensive on this slate? Because it's kind of an interesting one. Are we going to consider expensive 8,500 and above, 9K and above?
We'll say 8K and above.
Okay, 8K and above. Honestly, I want to give you two. Give me Victor Wembanyama for raw points. Just in terms of might not quite hit value, but I like the raw points upside. So he's pretty much 10K, around the board on. Let me make sure. Yeah, DraftKings he's 9,900. FanDuel he's 10.3. Give me Victor Wembanyama for a little bit over value. TJ, give me 52 points, fantasy points for Victor Wembanyama tonight, which would absolutely help us out a ton. Give me Cooper Flag, who's so obvious, man, but across the board, even though he's more expensive on FanDuel, give me Cooper Flag as a slate breaker at 50+ points, 50+ fantasy points as well. On the cheap end, TJ, I'm trying to help the people out here. Sneaky slate breaker, I think is Jaden Ivey, because I feel like he's going to go overlooked. On the cheap end, not so sneaky. Give me Ryan Nembhard, who also I guess might technically be sneaky because he's projected for around 13%.
Yeah, Ryan Nembhard, he's just been very poor lately, and so he's not projecting for much ownership, but I'm with you. I really like him as a cheap play. I'm going to Dennis Jenkins as my cheap guy. I just got to keep rolling with my boy. I picked him the other night, even though he was coming off the bench. He's still absolutely crushed. I'm going back to the well tonight, whether he starts or whether he's coming off of the bench. But Dennis Jenkins is going to be my cheapie. And then up top, I'm going Keontae George. That is my favorite spend up on the slate. I just really, really like him. I also really like Jaylen Brown as a spend up option tonight.
I was going to say that too, TJ. Like he's going
a little Brown Wemby mini stack with all the value from this game.
Yeah, he's going severely overlooked. Like guys like Norman Powell who are just steady that have 40-point upside but might not get there. Like those are the guys I think where the money's going to be made tonight, TJ. And I'm honestly stuck right now between Powell and Knipple, like for my last piece on FanDuel, because I want to get some raw points. I could get to Asar Thompson for what it's worth, obviously. So we'll see.
Quentin Jackson starting for Indiana over Jay Huff today. I don't really think that makes Quentin Jackson somebody that I want to play. He was projected for 2 minutes, but obviously that's going to bump up. I don't think I'm very interested in Jackson. That does just kind of take Huff probably right out of my pool, though. And so he wasn't somebody that I was very interested in. I was getting to, let's see, how much Huff was I getting to? 14% more than I thought. I think I'm just going to take him out of my pool now, or at least limit him to only power forward, because power forward's a pretty weak position. I think it's okay to keep him in the pool, but not somebody that I really feel like I need anymore. I'll bump Ron Holland up and be able to get a little bit more of him. Jeez, that's a weak position. Sheesh. All right. Let's start taking some questions here. Going to the RotoGrinders live stream Discord chat first. Going to the YouTube chat second. Thoughts on Trey Jones for a FanDuel GPP, Will?
No.
Trey Jones, not somebody that I considered today either. I'd rather play Dosunmu or White in that same age range, price range.
Age range.
Yeah, they're all around the same age. Dosunmu, White, and
gosh.
Trey Jones, they're probably all around the same age. Same price range with Herder's playing too. It's just a little jumpy.
Oh, man. TJ, guys, let me tell you something. I just fell into the perfect lineup on FanDuel, and I'm keeping it. Oh, my goodness. Incredible. TJ, if this wins, we'll talk about it. Oh, I just fell into the perfect lineup. All because I was unafraid to click a button and, this is fantastic. TJ, I might not win all the money on FanDuel tonight, but I hope I win some of it. Oof. Sorry. All right, TJ.
Heck yeah.
Continue.
Love to hear it. Absolutely no problem at all. I love to hear it. QQ, DK single entry, last piece. You want Buzelis or Filipowski?
Ooh. Gosh. Give me Buzelis.
Agreed there. Would Diabate and Love be a good counter in large field to Gafford and Reed? No, I wouldn't be getting to Diabate tonight, not with Cockbrenner back. Love over Gafford, sure, but I don't really see many scenarios of Diabate outscoring Reed today with Cockbrenner back for Charlotte. Gafford and Love or Filipowski and Cockbrenner, FanDuel GPP, Gafford and Love by a pretty significant margin. If you had to pick one for raw DK fantasy points, who would you both choose between Brandon Miller or Miles Bridges? Who scores more fantasy points tonight?
Oh, man, that's
Brandon
a tough
Miller,
one, man.
Miles Bridges. That's one of those ones where I feel very confident Miles Bridges is getting you 35-ish, and Brandon Miller's 25 or 45.
Yep, I agree. Agreed.
If you're picking one, which one you go with?
I feel like Miles Bridges has more ways to get there. Give me Miles Bridges.
Devontae Adams headed to the medical tent. It might not be my day for football tonight. It's all right. On to the next one. Single entry, Bridges or Miller. Same question as last one. Who did you say? Sorry, I
went with Bridges. I think he's got more ways to get there. That was my philosophy.
I think I might like Miller, but I don't know. Like it is such a toss up. DK GPP best power forward $4,500 or less. Need a power forward on DK 45 or less.
I'm
it's
right
Clay.
Now, TJ. Yeah, it's probably Clay.
It's Clay for sure.
It could be Holland.
Be very highly owned though.
Could be Holland. TJ.
That's the pivot.
Yeah, I would say Clay or Holland right out the top.
All right. Let's see what else we got here. I think that was Gafford or Adebayo for a FanDuel GPP. Those guys can't be the same price, so we'll need a little bit more context, but you're certainly not leaving salary on the table and just going with Gafford over Adebayo straight up. That is Adebayo, but otherwise it just depends who your 2v2 is with. Really depends who your 2v2 is with. Hope Joe Adamo is saying that Adams was bleeding from his tongue. Hopefully that's all it is. Get the blood cleaned up, get him back out there. I need my guy to score a touchdown today if I'm going to be doing anything in the football streets. Let's go over to YouTube chat, see if we got any questions over there. If not, we might get out of here a little bit early since, like we talked about, there isn't any news that we are still waiting on. Do you think we'll get this right away, but do you think Jalen Smith pops back into the starting lineup now that he is healthy? He had been starting before he was out. What are your thoughts on Jalen Smith for Chicago?
I don't know if he starts, but I think he gets some minutes.
Stafford is 12 for 26.
I think he's Tyler Higbee to catch one more pass. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, I'm not feeling good about all my Rams onslaughts now. It looked a lot better before the game started. Center on DK, what do you think about Nikola Vucevic?
Absolutely. Plug him in.
No problem with Vucevic tonight. I like him as well. How do we feel about Zubac as a tournament play?
No. I
don't
need to
mind it.
see
I think it's okay.
I just need to see it.
Like he's been fine since coming back from injury. I think he's okay. I have him in my pool. I'm not getting to a lot of him, but it's viable. I think I do want to play a maximum of one Clipper though. I'm not playing Zubac with a Kawhi with a Harden. It's max one of that team for me. What are your thoughts on LaMelo Ball on FanDuel today? Starting coming off the bench now so that he can play more minutes in the fourth quarter. In his first game off the bench, he smashed.
Don't hate it at all.
No problem with LaMelo either. Utah just doesn't play any defense. So that Charlotte team looking very good. Highest implied team total on the entire slate. Let's see here. What do we got? What do you think about Kevin Love tonight?
Yeah, I think he's fine. Going to play some minutes, so I think you can plug him in.
Like him more on FanDuel where he has power forward eligibility and is only 4,300. But in general, I agree with you. I like Kevin Love tonight more as a pivot off of Gafford than Reed, though, because I do think that Paul Reed is somebody you still want to make sure you're getting into your lineups. Ooh, DK Cash, who you got? Daniel Gafford, Max Christie.
You know what? Gafford's probably the right answer here. Give me Gafford.
Yeah, my tournament brain's getting the best of me because Gafford.
Yeah, I know.
Christie at lower ownership, but Gafford projects better. Gafford is the guy to play in cash. Oh, but man, do I just want to switch that. I put him in cash and tournament lineups. That's the thing. That's what I'm looking at as like Max Christie. That would be at half the ownership. That is interesting. That is very interesting. What do you think about Kyle Anderson? You getting any slow-mo tonight?
I am not. Doesn't mean he won't play, but I'm not ended up with any. But he's a really good tournament play, though. I will say he's a great tournament play today. Don't come off slow-mo because I'm not playing him. You need to play slow-mo. I'm not doing it.
Great tournament play. Oh, wow. He has put up some ceiling performances lately. I got him in
what I'm saying is on a small slate when nobody's probably playing him tonight, like that's one of those flyers that takes you from 10th place to first. Because he goes off in
a small slate and he'll be 1% owned. That's a very good point.
Yep.
Who is your favorite punt tonight? Just straight up your favorite, let's say, sub 4K player. Nemhard for me as well. If I'm picking a second, something real off the board, Hugo Gonzalez. Hugo Gonzalez is my real off the board punt today. But I agree with you 100%. Nemhard is number one for me of that list. Julian Champagny has been ruled in. Not something we are worried too much about today. We weren't getting to the Spurs much anyways. Clay or Furphy in a lineup that already has Marshall and Flag?
Clay.
Yeah, I think it's still Clay as well. Holland, Herter, or Anthony Simons?
Holland.
Jackson Carr talking about how with Markkanen out last game, Kyle Anderson got 20 plus minutes. Hey, yeah, like we're not doing it, but if you want to, let it rip. Let it rip. There are crazier things have happened on small slates like this. Nothing wrong with that. What do you think about fading Cooper Flag to get different tonight?
Not in every lineup.
I'm playing Ryan Nemhard.
Look, we're saying fade him all the way. I just even though he's high owned, I don't think that's the right way to play the slate. But that's my opinion. Obviously, I don't think the right way is to fade Flag when he's got an opportunity to pretty much carry the load.
Agreed there. DKGPP, do you think Anthony Simons is a decent last piece? No problem with that. He's a high ceiling guy. If he's hitting threes, he's going to be he's gonna get more minutes and he can put up a solid fantasy performance. If not, he's not gonna get there. But Simons is a very good shooter. I don't have any qualms with getting to him as a last piece today. Somebody asking about D'Angelo Russell. I'm not getting there. But I guess with Brandon Williams out, if he's going to re-enter the rotation, maybe it's today. But keep in mind, he has not played for 2 weeks. He has not stepped on the court for 2 weeks. And that is not because he's injured. That's just because he's totally out of the rotation. So if you're playing a bunch of lineups, 150 like I am, and you want to mix in a little D'Angelo Russell to get different, sure. But definitely not somebody you're looking to go like super, super heavy on today because he hasn't entered the rotation in 2 weeks now. Who is your favorite power forward today?
Wemby.
What about on DraftKings?
Sorry, give me 1 second.
Such a weak position. My highest owned, like
probably Miles Bridges.
Mario Uneasy says, who are you locking in at power forward? I'm not locking anybody, but like I'll be underweight on Clay, but he's still my highest owned at that spot. I have 33% Clay, 30% Bridges, 20% each, Siakam, Buzelis, and Holland. And so that's where I'm kind of sticking with in this spot. Favorite veggie on a pizza?
Mushrooms.
Not a mushroom guy myself. It's not about the taste. It's just about the texture for me. Just can't do it. Can't do it with the mushrooms. DKGPP, you want Andrew Nemhard or Tyler Hero?
Hero.
It's a tough one. I think I might side Nemhard. He's been playing some good basketball lately, but that is a tough one. Both of those options, very, very strong tournament options today. That'll do it for questions. Oh, no, we got one more. DKGPP, they already have Miles Bridges. You going with Norman Powell or Brandon Miller?
I'm going to go Miller because of the Utah game.
That's exactly it as well. I think I still like Miller better for that spot, even with Miles Bridges, just because like that Utah team doesn't play any defense at all. And so I'm with you there. DK, GPP, Hero, and Nemhard. Well, we just did that one. I think that'll do it for all of the questions. Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in today. Good luck in all your basketball and football contests. Chief and I will be back tomorrow ahead of the 3-game NFL slate, breaking that one down for you on pre-lock. Oh, and Beaner updated his question for us here, and with that, it was that Gafford versus Adebayo question. So Beaner has Nemhard, Gafford, and Kevin Love, as well as Dennis Jenkins in his lineup. He likes all those value pieces, but that leaves him 2,100 left. Which one of those spots would you upgrade? You could do a Gafford up to Bam Adebayo, or you could do a Dennis Jenkins up to Brandon Miller. You could upgrade Kevin Love. Which of those spots would you use that 2,100 on to upgrade? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry about that. That was the ultimate mute. I was saying probably Jenkins up to Miller just because it's the Utah game for me.
I think I'd personally do,
because you like Jenkins way more than I do today.
Yeah. I have a soft spot for him. That's my guy. I think I'd upgrade Gafford. Gafford would be the one that I'd want to leave because I don't like doing Gafford over Reed straight up. I would rather get different at the position entirely, spending up with Bam Adebayo. So I think that is probably the spot that I would use it on. I do see one more person typing in the Discord, and now they're not. It's gone. All right, so that'll do it. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Like I said, Chief and I will be back tomorrow morning breaking down the 3-game slate for Sunday, so stay tuned for that. On behalf of myself and Chief, we will see you next time. Peace.